The sale of bus and flight tickets for the land and air vaccinated travel lane VTL initiative between Malaysia and Singapore, which was temporarily suspended 23rd December last year, is reopened with immediate effect today. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin, however, said the quota for the bus and flight tickets had been reduced by 50% from the existing capacity for land and air routes. However, passengers who have purchased tickets for travel dates after 20th January 2022, before the announcement on the suspension of the ticket sales was made, are allowed to continue the journey using the VTL initiative according to the quota set earlier. According to Khairi, the decision to reopen the ticket sales for the two VTL initiatives was made following the result of a risk assessment that was carried out based on the current COVID-19 situation in both countries. He said the timeline on the increase in the quota for land and air VTL ticket sales depended on the risk assessment conducted from time to time by the Health Ministry based on the current COVID-19 situation in both countries. He reminded travellers using the Malaysia-Singapore VTL platform to perform the self-test rapid antigen testing on the 2nd, 4th and 6th day after arrival, or the RTK AG professional on the 3rd and 5th day of their arrival. Meanwhile, the mandatory use of thermal scanners to scan body temperatures will be removed from the standard operating procedures or SOPs of COVID-19 risk control nationwide soon. Khairi said only the MySejahtera QR code scan is required every time one enters a premise.
This is announcement on SOP throughout the country, yang mana perkara ini akan dibawa ke mesyuarat MKN. Tapi KKM telah setuju supaya kita keluarkan penggunaan wajib pengimbas suhu daripada SOP. Jadi selepas dipinda nanti SOP pada sesi kuartet yang akan datang, tidak lagi diwajibkan untuk premis-premis ada pengimbas suhu lagi.
Khairi also announced that the quarantine period for travellers who had received booster doses will be shortened to 5 days from the previous 7 days, effective 24th January. He said travellers would have to undergo a COVID-19 RT-PCR test conducted 2 days before the departure date with a negative result. As for travellers who have not received a booster dose but have been fully vaccinated, the quarantine period is 7 days, while for travellers who have not or have not been fully vaccinated, the quarantine period is 10 days. He added that travellers would be given a digital home surveillance order and no longer be fitted with the regular surveillance bracelets. However, for travellers from high-risk countries who undergo quarantine at home, they will be given digital surveillance bracelets. There is no necessity to close boarding schools despite an increase in COVID-19 clusters, as many of the cases there involve mild symptoms or were asymptomatic. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said closing them would be a step backward, as the teenage vaccination rate was over 90%.
Jangkitan ini adalah perkara yang akan jadi, ya. Kita tak boleh lari daripada jangkitan. Malah tidak ada negara sekarang melainkan mungkin negara China yang mengamalkan zero COVID policy. Dan selagi kesan gejala jangkitan itu tidaklah teruk, mereka boleh hanya diasingkan di asrama ataupun di rumah.
Earlier, Khairi said a total of 52 education clusters, including 27 boarding schools, detected during the first week after schools reopened until Wednesday. He said the gathering of students had increased the risk of transmission, resulting in 15 new clusters in the first week of schooling. In the second week, it rose to 33 clusters, with all states reported education clusters except Perlis, Terengganu, Sarawak and Labuan. The Ministry of Education (MOE) has rubbished claims that school children are being served with only plain rice and gravy under the government's Supplementary Food Programme (RMT), as shown in a picture on social media. Senior Education Minister Dr. Razzie Jidin said that detailed investigations were carried out, and it was found that the photograph of the food viral by a Facebook user was not the meal prepared for RMT recipients in schools. In a Facebook post, the senior minister said the meals for all RMT recipients are prepared by canteen operators for the children to eat in schools only. He thanked all parties for their concern over the matter, adding that the ministry would continue to improve the program, including in preparation of meals and milk for all the recipients. He added that the provision of milk under the RMT had also been improved, with the recipients being served milk on all school days since last year, instead of twice a week previously. The Finance Ministry is considering providing grants to small and medium enterprises, SMEs and micro-entrepreneurs affected by the 2021-2022 Northeast monsoon floods. Its Minister, Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz, said the ministry was waiting for the list of entrepreneurs involved from SME Corp.
Kita di Kementerian Kewangan telah meminta list nama-nama syarikat-syarikat yang telah terkesan daripada SME Corp. SME Corp sekarang tengah collect the data supaya kita dapat melihat apakah bantuan yang kita boleh beri dari segi grant pada mereka yang betul-betul terkesan, terutamanya PKS yang kecil dan mikro.
Meanwhile, Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul said he would bring the proposal on extending the period of interest exemption and moratorium on bank loans to banks in the country. This is because the special assistance previously announced by the government will end on 31st January. The anti-hopping bill will be finalised and tabled in the next parliamentary session, which will begin on 28th February. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar, said the decision was reached at the Steering Committee meeting on Transformation and Political Stability between the government and Pakatan Harapan on Wednesday. In a statement, Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Junaidi said the move was also in line with the Prime Minister's recommendation to expedite the bill. Elaborating further, he said the agreement reached at the meeting was a commitment of both parties to ensure the various matters agreed in the Memorandum of Understanding on Transformation and Political Stability between the government and PH could be implemented. In the meantime, he said a bipartisan technical committee will be set up under the Steering Committee and will have 4 representatives each from the government and PH. He said the technical committee would meet next week to detail out policy matters and the proposed legal framework. Athletes who dropped from the national training programs still have the opportunity to represent the country in international tournaments. In stressing this, Youth and Sports Minister Datuk Sri Ahmad Faizal Azumu said their omission did not mean that they are barred from undergoing training at National Sports Council venues and facilities nationwide to raise their performance.
Cuma kita tidak boleh letakkan di bawah program podium yang seperti sebuah akademi kita jaga melalui satu bumbung. Jadi itu perkara yang perlu rakyat faham. Walaupun daripada kalau daripada tahun lepas lebih kurang 40 juta yang telah diperuntukkan kepada kosong, tetapi kami di KBS bersama dengan rakan-rakan kepimpinan pegawai-pegawai tertinggi KBS telah mencari jalan dan kami dapat mengumpulkan sejumlah dana sebanyak 17 juta untuk meneruskan program podium ini demi kelangsungan atlet-atlet berprestasi tinggi kita.
Speaking in the TV1 program Inclusive last night, he also refuted claims that the podium program under the NSC has been halted. He said the Finance Ministry was of the view that the country's expenditure ought to be prioritized towards the post-COVID-19 recovery process, which the Youth and Sports Ministry concurred. The NSC has previously dropped 144 national athletes and retained only 293 athletes for this year, as well as reduced their training allowances. And that wraps up today's edition of Updates at Noon. In our top story today, VTL bus and flight ticket sales reopen today. Tune in to News at 10, coming up at 10 p.m. on saluran Berita RTM. I'm Mohana Priya. Stay tuned to TV2 and have a great weekend.